Previously, Professor Adrian told about the structure of some CCPs, and in this training, I wanted to present some of the examples that we have done in the composite coarse populations and also synthetics. So this is again in the organic plant breeding training packages, and we are in the model 5 organic heterogeneous material design and development. So how we are going to the planning for today is to presentation of some main topics on dynamic mixtures, why you use it, and some examples. Then we'll have a fast quiz, some debate, and some questions through the chat. So one of our question is why we are using the CCPs or the synthetics. We use it because of the genetic diversity, because of the resilience to the climate change, because generally they and according what Professor Adrian already mentioned to you, the question of the genetic diversity, even that we don't have the homogeneous materials all with the same shape, with the same color, this diversity can be important for adapting, for the climate change, for local adaptation, for many other issues that is generally more resilient and sustainable according to the years and according to the seasons that we made this using. The other aspects that it's quite important for us, and especially in organic, but also the different locations, it's the local adaptation. If we have more rich soil, more poor soil, if we have different uses of the germplasm, this can be included. Not only the adaptable climatic aspects, but also the production systems that is used. So the different systems of production could make different outputs. For instance, I'm going to talk to you about that, but ears, small ears, can be more feasible for mechanical harvesting, but generally for farmers, they prefer a big ear, and because if they are doing hand harvest, they will collect one ear instead of several of them. And then one of the aspects that is quite important, and it's being used is CCPs, and the example that you have studied in that Adrian provided to you is the yield stability. One of the papers in the wheat indicates that even that you have a population that is a mixture from several origins, you can end up with a more stable yield. It doesn't mean that produces higher, but it was stable across the several places because it has in their composition several populations of those places also. So this is quite important, and this is the why we can use these CCPs, and especially in organic where we need this more local adaptation, the CCPs can be a nice important solution. Also, they can be very important in the low input systems where you really need to make adaptation, and sometimes there's no available seeds in the market to provide to farmers for this some that we can say more marginal land. Some of the types of populations, and especially because I'm working on maize, as you know, one of the types that we can achieve it's by F2 and the diversity by F2 populations. They've developed from cross of two inbred lines. It could be some way, as Mr. Adrian already mentioned, about using, for instance, four inbred lines, to cross it 2 by 2, and then at the end you cross these two parents. And you can have also 8 as in a magic design, or you can have a synthetic. And this synthetic is generally developed from recombination of elite inbred lines, usually 10 to 24 lines, but could be more. In our case, we have the example of the 77 inbred lines that I will mention afterwards. We can also have the open pollinated varieties. Variety crosses produced by crossing either open pollinated varieties or synthetic varieties, and composites. The composites are developed by intermating material of diverse origin. We can use open pollinated varieties, we can use synthetic varieties and mixtures, hybrids, inbred lines, whatever. This is what we can have in terms of composite composite. And if we are talking about composite cross populations, our material will be obviously the populations. Well, for you to have an example of one iconic synthetic, it's the Iowa steep stalk synthetic that was created by Professor Sprague in Iowa State University. And it was created with a genetically broad-based synthetic variety, improving it during 5 cycles of seed recurrent selection with the tester, and conducting several years of inbreeding and extensive hybrid testing, and producing seed that increases for release and industry distribution. So this is a really example that is almost in all the temperate zones for resistance in terms of stock. So our question is also, what is the synthetic, the composite that you want to build? Are we dealing with allogamic? Are we dealing with autogamic populations? What is the material that we are using? In the previous example provided in your exercise, you have worked with autogamic plants like the wheat, but we can also work with allogamic plants as maize or others. In the autogamic, you can have some crosses. For instance, you can start with the wheat making crosses and then let them segregate. We have the example of Isabelle Colbranger that did this, and other with mixtures. Mixtures, when you have a population of wheat, you have basically, and because they are from autogamy, you have almost a mixture of clones. So it means that the individuals are several clones, because when they produce seed as the parent were. So this could be different in the autogamic. In the allogamic, you can make the control of the pollination, or you can, and again in maize it's quite more easy. You let the parentals to cross each other according several tools or several methodologies that you can apply. It depends the time that you have. It depends what you want to do. And back to the first slide again, I wanted to talk you about the populations. And in this picture, we have some of the materials that we have used. This first one is the um, a composite from populations from Azores. This is a synthetic that uh, that is called Fandango, and I will talk about that. And this is the Sindre that is another composite from populations. Starting with the Azorean composite, we have example. This basically we have this is not how the composite should be made, but it was a possibility that we had at the time, because we have in the 2018 and 19, we had the opportunity of multiplying several populations, about 40 populations that were collected during the 80s. And we had that opportunity, and so we put it in isolation on the field, and in a way that we could make the mixture of these populations in order that we obtain a bulk of the seeds. As you can see, this is one of the bulk, and for instance, in terms of rank, in organic or in conventional, it was the third in organic, but in conventional, it was the 11. So there was a different rank of 8. That was not very bad, and indicates that there was some stability of this bulk that was used. These populations were using to, and it was studied mainly in the master degree of Pereira and White Pintado. And we built this bulk, the bulk 1 and the bulk 2, by the crossing of the 40 Azorean OPVs that were then subjected to mass selection. This is the Simpre composite, and the Simpre composite started with, as you can see, you have white, flint, yellow also, some with orange, and we are doing this selection of Simpre under agroforestry and in some farmers' fields. One of the farmers are really happy with this composite, and indeed it has been quite adaptable, and with a yield that is interesting for the farm. It started with the crossing of 12 populations, 12 maize populations, with 10 Portuguese land races, and we had 2 American populations using a polycross method. Generally, we use these Portuguese populations for maize bread, but in this case, we wanted really to produce some material that could be used in the farmers for silage, for grain, for animals, and we were interested in knowing what would happen with this population. We are still working on that. There's not yet any data, but what we can tell you about is that we use it this Simpre as to test some of conventional and in organic, using also measuring some on these means. So we have the Simpre in organic and conventional. And as you can see, it's more or less the same in terms of fungi. It's more or less what we observe in population that we observe in and here for bacteria, almost the same in cancer. The other synthetic, this is a synthetic that we have used, and then I will provide more details on this synthetic. I told you population, and I will explain you afterwards, and you will understand afterwards why I did it. Well, this is case of in which we have used really a lot of inbred lines. Starting from the beginning, I've already mentioned this slide in previous presentations, but what I wanted to indicate and to stress is that this synthetic was done in the breeding station, and the idea was to, there was a hybrids program ongoing, and the idea was, why not to use the best inbred lines that we have in our station. So this is the aspect of the Fandango, and you can see this is a commercial hybrid. Well, you can choose another one, but it's only to show you that they are quite big ears, and they have also a fasciation trait that you can observe here. So it means that the tip of the ear, it becomes more flattened. And this was the principle or the story of the synthetic population, in which we had 77, but one of them collapsed, so we end up with 76 yellow elite inbred lines that were dense and clean, and the composition was with 20% of the best Portuguese inbred lines and 80% of Northern American. Then you can see how the design in the field was done. First, we have put each of the inbred lines from 1 to 76, and then the opposite from 1 to 76, in which we had there was the attention to put from precocity to lateness. So the one was more early, and the last one was more late. And the first population, the first mixture that we had, and this was started in 75, and the idea was to make the selection along these years. This was done around Lisbon, in Oeiras, and the idea was to collect some of the best years that were produced in 1, in 2, in 3. So that was a kind of year selection, or that were then selected, kept, and you did again this for the second year. Obviously, that in this case you didn't have the inbred line, but you are already at an hybrid with that, the maternal origin, but you don't know the male origin because there was open pollinated. So you have the hybrid. In the next year, you continue to have the hybrid of this one plus the pollen that you got from the surrounding areas, and you repeat this till 70. So around 3 years that this was done. Then, and this, the name of them was later on, it was needed to make some studies some genetic studies for which there was using the North Carolina design. That means that there was a mating, one male crossed with 5 females. And from the seed that you obtain from all the borders, that were kept this seed, and they introduced in on farm, and that is still used today, and started to be used in a mass selection procedure. So there's here two moments. One moment that you mix the red lines, you follow the of the material that is in each maternal, that you know more the maternal line, and you follow during these 3 years of recombination. After this was introduced in on farm, and one of the ideas that this introduction was done, it was because you can see this is a really huge ear, and you see that this ear has about 30 centimeters, and there's others that are bigger. So the idea was to, and when the breeder started the program, the participatory plant breeding program, he put it, he saw some of these plants near the meeting point of the farmers, that was the cafe. And when they passed it through there, they were really impressed. So it was a kind of flag to the program, because they are not adapted to the food. You can obviously use it, but they are not so well adapted to food. But it was really a flag to the farmers to see how big these ears were. This is a repetition of the Nutica formation, and then the silage period started in '85 with CIMIT support, because at the time the Wayne Egg, that was a breeder from CIMIT, he passed to Portugal and saw the population, and at the time there was about 10 tons per hectare with the population, and it saw where we had in America a population that provides 10 tons. So there was a CIMIT support, but then we entered in the European community, and in '86, so this was stopped. But in this process, there was farmers engaged in breeding and selection to ensure adaptation to local conditions. Later on, we did some trials for Portugal and the United States to know more about the adaptation of this population. I don't know if you have any help. Please, something this way. Okay, in the selection process, I've already mentioned this slide, that what is needed to be done in the field when we had already the selection, and through this population, because it was a synthetic population, there was the normal selection before the flowering or during the harvest. That harvest should be done in taking the consideration, well, in this starting point, that generally the Portuguese farmers do the selection at the storing facilities. The idea, and that was the breeder to introduce these and to improve the knowledge, was to how can we do this two parental control, not selection. It means before pollen shedding, that you go to the field and take the tassels of the plant that you don't like, that they can produce grain, okay, but they will not produce seed. So you do negative selection, and then before harvesting. And in this case, before harvesting, you need to go to see if you look at the ear, what is the size, if it is prolificous, if it has more than one, what is the health, it has diseases, it has pests, what about the root is okay, what about the stalk lodging or root lodging, what is, and one of the selection that we can do, because somehow it's connected with the pests and diseases, is to keep the plant on the base, as you can see this guy doing. So it's keeping the plant, and then you can know if the plant is with diseases or with some pests, because if it is, for instance, with Ostremia or Sedania, it will break immediately because the medulla and the stalk is not okay. And with the roots the same. So you can make a selection to improve your stalk and root. Then the architecture. Do you like the plants that are very tall? What is the ear insertion of the ear? If they have husks or not, if they enclose the ear or not, and the leaf angle. That would be important if you are working with polycropping system in the, for instance, cross with maize and beans. You are with maize per se. So this is the selection procedure that you do before the year go to storing facilities. Then at storing facilities, you make another selection. So this was done, and these research methods were applied to our population, to our synthetic population, with that we did with tasseling. We have about making the male selection. We select about 4,500, and to obtain more or less a selection pressure about 1 to 5%. And from this, we obtain the 40 best years for the next season. You have here the recurrent selection by mass selection, scientific recurrent selection, C1, C0, C1, C2, etc. This mass selection was conducted over 22 years. There was field trials, compared the selection cycles across different environments, and the data analysis with the regression models and non-parametric methods also. This is only to indicate that for the selection, we generally not choose all the cycles because it's quite expensive. So not randomly, but we select generally from, for instance, cycle 1, cycle 3, cycle 5, etc. It's also important to have the idea that at the beginning, the selection was done by the breeder, and then it passed, the selection was passed to the farmer. That had quite interesting implications in this process. So this was the design to evaluate the populations. In Portugal, used about 9.6 square meters, and in Iowa it was 8.31 square meters. In the density, generally, these populations are adapted to low density. If you increase the density, they will not produce ears. As you can see, they have quite big ears, so they don't adapt quite well to the high densities. This was some of the traits that were measured, like yield, moisture, days to silking, etc. This is the for field, and then some traits for the data. I've already mentioned this and this. And in terms of selection, what we can see here is that you have the PC selection process that we have mentioned before, and then there was these first cycles were done by the breeder, and afterwards the farmer started to make the selection. There was some differences because in terms of the breeder, we were talking about almost 1 hectare for the selection, and for the farmer, it was more scarce. We are talking about 70 square meters. And this was very linked with competition that I will have already mentioned in the previous presentations. That is the best year Sousa Valley competition. And what did happen during this process? Well, this process occurred in 2 phases, the breeder and the farmer. And it was quite interesting to understand that different things changed. For instance, the aim of the breeder was the yield improvement of Fandango. And to achieve this goal, there was the certified match selection was done for both parents. And for yield, no significant change was observed during the selection when all locations were considered. However, it's quite interesting that for Lousada and during the first cycles, there was a higher tendency for yield increase, about 3.09 of gain per cycle per year for breeders compared with the farmer selection, 0.63 of gain per cycle per year. We can see in this, there's in the paper, there's much other traits that were measured, but you can see there's quite difference, especially when we look at these first cycles. This was for Portugal selection, and in this case for Lousada. That is interesting because Lousada is the place where the selection took place. So this means that were some adaptation to the place. And as you can see here, but then with the farmer, there was other, other important issues that were also considered, and we have more fluctuations like you can see. Both selections were important and addressed the issues of each one. Because the farmer selection, what we saw, it was the ear size maximization. And this selection procedure can be related with the inverse mechanical harvesting, because generally farmers prefer lower densities and bigger ears if they harvest by hand, and because of the best year of Sousa Valley competition. That was one of the main reasons that explains the popularity of Fandango. So hence, during this farmer selection, some decisions could prejudice hypothetical yield gain, such as the selection of higher moisture years, comparing with breeder selection. So kernel weight and year weight were key factors influencing yield. Fasciation, mutation, causing flatness increase with farmer selection, and decrease raw number of and ear diameter under mass selection. And also kernel weight and ear length decrease over, in this case, decrease over cycles. Well, what was the importance of more as a of more on-farm conservation, or if you can say that engage farmers with this, it was the best year of Sousa Valley, and Fandango won for 17 consecutive years. It means that all the years that were yellow then against all the hybrids existing, doesn't mean that it is more productive than hybrid, and that's the homogeneity that hybrid has. But in terms of individual years, some of them are much bigger than the hybrids. Farmer selection strategies prioritized large areas, large ears, and high moisture content because they don't want this high moisture content. But when you try to have bigger ears, generally you start to enter in the phase that you have more long cycles. And if you have long cycles, you increase the high moisture content. And other issue that was also very important was to maintain the genetic diversity while improving adaptation to these local conditions. Well, this was as you can see, the winners in the Sousa Valley, and generally it was attributed the prize for the bigger ear. And because of that, we have defined also the ear value formula that was later adapted. This was the first one that was empirically done, and then we improved it with this formula that were based on the results of the year per se and the population, and the yield that were obtained from those years. So there's in this case, it was adapted only to the years, so that the farmer arrived with the year to compete, and we don't know nothing about the origin of the year and the production that they had. But in this case, yes, we have the size of the year, the yield, so we could connect and be more accurate regarding the traits used. Well, this was important because not only for the Fandango, but also for the populations that we wanted to maintain. Having some of these examples of initiatives, it's a way that farmers can listen about the traits that could be important for the selection, because in this competition, the traits were read to the farmers, for instance, indicating that what were the kernel weight of the winner ear, what was the length, what was the number of rows. So these are traits that even that the farmer don't know so well, or know it by heart, but doesn't have more detailed explanation on these traits. He could use it then for doing the selection. And this was a way to indicate the best traits for selection. And well, I have here now quiz that I would like that you would copy these questions, and then if we put yes or no, then you just put end of this for yes or no. I will copy to the. I will put yes and no, and you could react directly on the. You can react directly here, putting some the reaction yes or no. Okay, I just copy all the questions. We have 10. Is that you respond just by clicking, for instance, in yes or no, put your reaction with a thumb in the response that you think that is correct. 12, 44. Thank you very much for your responses. And we have a lot of responses by mail and also by the using this chat. And we had in the chat, it's more easy for me. That's why I will tell you. We had for the first question, we had 1 yes and 11 no. So the question is, should we follow the same methodology for producing CCTs using allogamic or autogamic lengths? Well, in generally, no, but there's some cases that if you want to, for instance, in case of maize, unless you want to really to drive the pollination, it will be more or less the same. But in generally, it's different, and especially the generations that you want to follow could be also. Then the question 2 is, can farmers produce CCT? You can see, okay, there was some yes, some no, and well, the farmers can produce the CCPs, depends if they, and in general, for at least for some, again, for some maize, they used to do in the old times, because sometimes they could go from one population, bring other populations from the neighbors, and to make them process to obtain more desirable traits. But what I think that it's important is that it's really the best way is that when we can do it in a multi-actor approach, because if there's the researcher, the farmers, millers, bakers, etc., it's really much more. We can gain much more than, because there are some things that the farmers could do and we can't, others that we can and they can't. For instance, one of the issues is that if they select, they can select for short years. So that means that they have a long, can have long years and short years. And generally short years are associated to decreasing of yield. If they don't know by the literature that this trait is really a trait that is not very important in terms of obtaining the increasing the yield, they could do it because they can choose by the aesthetic. Could do it, but we we need to tell them that they could go in that way, but it's not the way that they will achieve. They will be more effective in achieve ideal. And do synthetics and composites have the same genetic structure? Yeah, the response would be no, because if we talk about synthetics, we are generally talk about inbred lines, and in case of composites, generally we are talking about many things that we could use. Obviously, that if we talk about composite populations, we are talking about populations that are different from inbreds. And then this was a tricky question, because we had immediately the right question that it's BCC, BSSS, and it's Steve Stock synthetic that was produced by Professor Sprague in Iowa, and it's really one of the main populations. Main populations from which many inbred lines, very important inbred lines, derive. Well, that's some questions that what we know about CCPs and synthetics. I hope that it improved your information with Adrian and me. And also to think about your own previous experiences, other questions and doubts that you have, please expose. And what we have learned today, and the homework that I had for you, it's to select a crop and the traits and methodology that you will choose to produce a CCP. You need to define the crop, its allogamic, autogamic, the traits that you would select, and the methodology that you would choose to produce this CCP. So I would like to know if you have any questions. And regarding the homework, I would ask you to send that to me and to Ana Maria Charit. I don't know if I'm spelling well, Ana Maria. I'm sorry, probably not. I will copy the information also to the chat.
Pedro, I already copied it, so
thank you very much.
Have to, yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Pedro.
Hi, Pedro.
Nice to
How are
see
you?
you again. I was wondering if the farmers that are participating in the breeding program and they develop the Fandango population, if they could market their seeds, or is just an internal program for them?
Okay, that's a very good question. In fact, some of the farmers that use these populations, they use that for silage, not for human consumption. And the plant is quite tall, so that's a huge mass production. And what I know from the farmers is that the cows love it. That's what I can tell. That's we are not yet in the process, but probably we will need to register. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. There was a question by next Friday, or well, it will be on next. Indeed, it's we'll raise the Thursday, and we will by 14th of March. That could be If there's any more questions, well, if there's no other questions, we could finalize. I will deliver also when I send the presentation some more papers that you could see. Some of them were already presented by Adrian, and others put it in the reference list. I would like very much for your attention, and remember from 26 to 28 May we will have the OCAPE conference in Greece. Ana Maria, do you have any other remarks that you want to say?
So no, that is it. Now we have lunch break from
Yes.
1 to 2:30. So unit 5.3 starts at 2:30. I've put the details in the chat as well.
Thank you. Okay. So thank you very much for all your attention, and see you in the next unit. All the best.